This show is a Rochester podcast production. For advertising information, please contact us at rochesterpodcastnetwork@gmail.com. This episode is brought to you by St. Paul Proper, Rochester's new neighborhood pub in the heart of the St. Paul Quarter. With drink specials every day and a menu full of unique favorites, St. Paul Proper is the perfect spot for a weekend lunch, happy hour during the week, and late night any day. Introducing the new signature wing sauce, Tangled Up in Blue. I'm not going to sing the Dylan song, but if you want to, be my guest. St. Paul Proper, thanks for the support. We appreciate it. Check them out right next to Tapas at 187 St. Paul Street in the heart of the St. Paul Quarter. Thank you so much to St. Paul Proper. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chris Konya Show. Thank you so much for subscribing and sharing and liking and supporting the podcast. Thank you to all the people who checked out last week's episode, the Chicken Out Rock. Those guys are still rocking and rolling. Adam was great to have on. So if you didn't see that, go back, listen, or watch that episode. Again, with the running theme over the last few weeks, we had the CBD episode, we had the chicken episode, and now we're moving over to beer, at least for most of the show. From the Democrat and Chronicle, he's a well-known person in the community, a well-known reporter, and the only person who doesn't sell beer or make beer professionally that has beer on his business card. Will Cleveland, the beer columnist of Rochester. Thank you so much for being here, Will.
Thanks, Chris. I'm really excited that I got the invite.
Dude, of course. We, like I said, we went chicken, we went marijuana, and now we got to go beer. Oh, there's a theme here.
I mean, those are kind of the three food groups, right? Yeah.
So how's it going? How's everything?
Everything's going good, man. Just keeping busy and plugging away. That's all you can do.
Now, I know we're recording this in January, but at the time of the release, I think it might be closer to February. Not sure. Didn't do the math. Honestly, didn't prepare. Are you still, as the beer columnist of Rochester for the Democrat and Chronicle, are you still dry January?
Dry January. So my wife bet me $100 that I couldn't make it through the entire month of January without a beer, and being the stubborn dipshit that I am, I decided that I'm not going to lose that bet. We actually had a agreed upon cheat day last weekend at Homegrown, the festival out there at Three Heads and Love and Cup Throw every year, because I bought tickets to that before I knew that dry January was going to be in my future.
Grandfathered in.
Yeah, so we had that as kind of our halfway point, and so I'm going for 30 of 31 days, which I think is a pretty decent accomplishment.
Did you? What was the mentality going into Homegrown where you knew you could cheat on your bet?
I was just. It was really weird because like that first sip of beer, you're like, it's not that I miss beer, it's like the social aspect of it, because you're just surrounded by so many interesting and interesting people. So like the first sip was we walk in, I'm like, I don't know which brewery's closest, and I see K2 Brothers from Penfield right there, and they're pouring their Imperial Peppermint Chocolate Stout.
Wow.
And so I just took a sip of that. I'm like, okay, I kind of missed this.
Maybe you miss beer.
Yeah,
Maybe it's not just.
But it's about developing better habits and accountability. So I mean, it's a nice restart. So I'm not mad about it, and it's for the long run it'll be a good thing.
And it's a domesticated or domestic bet, right?
Yes.
So it's in your four walls.
Even though we share money, it's like I'm not going to lose that $100, even though it might already be my $100. I mean, no, it's truth be told, it's her $100 because she's the better adult in this equation.
She Venmos you from your checking account.
Yeah, like she actually has an actual adult job, and I just hang out at crime scenes and write about beer. So
yeah, I see all over the the internet, of course. Anytime there's a beer release, somehow you get in the door first, a couple days before.
It's a nice little. I can offer my platform to share releases and kind of offer up some free advertising. We're lucky that we developed a really insatiable audience for beer in Rochester over the last 5 years, and thankful I get to tell a lot of those stories.
Now, like I so bragged about before, Beer Columnist is on your. I mean, anybody can go and make business cards. I can make business cards that say Goldfish Expert, right? And get 100 of them for $50 or whatever. But this is an official. But you didn't make this yourself.
I did not.
This is an official.
It's on USA Today Network paper.
If you're watching the video feed, I'm holding it up right now.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll put a screenshot of it so you can see it better. How did you go about getting your employer, who pays your salary, your health benefits, who is a accredited a news agency,
we are
beer columnist on your business card?
So I actually for the last 5 years, or for the last 4+ years, my business card has just said reporter, because I've always done just a bunch of different things. I'm kind of like a general assignment guy. I'll have to like my actual function at the paper. Like 90% of my job is courtrooms and crime scenes and public safety reporting and things of that nature. But I've also done like a bi-weekly beer column. And I was out of business cards, so I went to the newsroom secretary. I'm like, well, can we order some new business cards? She's like, sure. She's like, well, what do you want them to say? And I was just like,
you're like devil angel,
right? And I was like, wait, can I put beer columnists on there? She's like, I don't care. I'm like, so then we did, and no one's yelled at me otherwise.
Well, I hope this doesn't blow up your spot.
I already posted it all over Instagram, and
that's how I saw it.
I think my executive editor actually liked the photo, so I think we're okay.
We're okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you think you were ahead of the curve when being a fan of craft beer, or do you think, okay, wow, Rochester has become a super popular market for breweries, I'm gonna make sure I learn everything about this?
So I really fell in love with beer probably around 2002, 2003.
So a little before, I'd say.
When I lived in Montana. That's where I went to undergrad at the University of Montana, because I'm from Irondequoit, but I went to journalism school at the University of Montana in Missoula, and my best friend lived across the street from this really awesome brewery called Kettle House, and it's Montana, and you can have a fake ID and no one really cares.
Okay.
I literally took my Wegmans Shoppers Club card and I filed it down and got transparency paper and spray glued transparency paper on my blank Wegmans Shoppers Club card and said I was 23 years old from Tallahassee, Florida. So that worked for the first few years I was out in Montana.
I'm pretty sure that's an official state ID in Florida.
Yeah, I mean there's a reason that Florida man's a thing. But I just kind of jumped into it, really, and just has always been kind of like this passion, this side hobby. And about 5 years ago, it'll be almost 6 years ago, had an editor at the paper who knew that I loved beer a lot, and our previous beer columnists were leaving, so it was just like, why don't you give this a shot? So I did three sample columns, and she really liked it. So I think we've kind of been at the forefront of telling a lot of these stories, because pretty much every brewery that's open in this market, I've highlighted. I've broken some news about big breweries happening here. I had a big part in making that Genesee Dream Ale with Other Half of Reality, because I kept putting those guys in contact.
I think I just had my last one a couple months ago.
I was cleaning out my old beer fridge at my parents' house, since my wife and I bought a new house, and I found just one that's still sitting in my parents' basement.
Just like a moment.
It's been stored. Hasn't been stored cold, so it's like, there's no way this is gonna be good. But I might save it for the 1 year anniversary of the beer in March.
You have it in like the little glass thing that in Beauty and the Beast that the rose is in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's right up on the mantle with my Oscar.
I have a 6-pack because of my radio roots over the last 6 years of working in radio. I have a 6-pack of WCMF commemorated from 1996 Jenny Light.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna open it on my wedding day.
That's awesome.
And have a photo shoot of us drinking it, and then just shortly after, with just like high definition shots of us just shooting up this 20-year-old Genesee beer.
What says romance more than 25-year-old Jenny Light?
Maybe we'll do it the next day just to save the wedding.
Well, if you want that good story to tell, you're not going to.
That's true.
So yeah, we've just kind of been on the forefront of telling a lot of these stories, and you've seen Rochester go from Monroe County went from 3 breweries in 2010 to we're at almost 25 now. So that's just in Monroe County. You're not even considering Ontario County or Livingston County, the Finger Lakes, and just the growth has been crazy. It's
no secret that Genesee beer went from the bottom of the barrel, this is a joke if we get it, it's cheap beer that our dads used to drink type thing. And I'm not even from Rochester, but this is the vibe I got from talking to people. How does a brand, without changing its name, without pretty much changing what it does besides making better beer, making different beer, how does a brand go from that joke to being one of the hottest spots in Rochester?
So what Jenny did that was brilliant in 2012 when they started the Genesee Brew House, because you can't really do big tours. You can't do tours. There's no way to for the public to see, the big Genesee brewery, the 500 barrel brewery, because it's just the way that place is laid out. I've had brewers tell me there's no way in 2019 or 2020 that you would have a brewery laid out that way, because it's in the it's in this footprint from the early 1900s, and then a lot of the equipment's from the 1960s, and you're going up across floors and going under things.
Right.
I mean, it makes no sense the way that place is laid out, but I mean, it makes sense in terms of, hey, we're going to grow within this footprint that we have. So there's never been really a way for the public to kind of have ownership over Jenny, because you can't do tours. I mean, a lot of people are obviously really proud of Genesee, and Genesee Cream Ale's, the standard bearer for that style, been around since 1960, really kind of reinvented that American classic. But what happened in 2012 was you had the Genesee Brewhouse that started, and that really served as kind of this gateway to the brand. You have the museum on the first floor, you have Dean's Pilot Brewery, the 20 barrel pilot brewery there, where he's doing, like, oh, I'm going to make a hazy IPA, or I'm going to make, a mosaic dry hopped cream ale, or these things that you wouldn't expect Jenny to do. So it's been kind of, with the introduction of the Genesee Brewhouse, and obviously that gorgeous view of High Falls, that's kind of served as kind of this, over the last 7, 8, 9 years, this renaissance of Genesee, I think, has a lot to do with that, because people can now have some ownership over the brand, because you can go interact with it, if that makes any sense.
What's the answer for places that aren't breweries? Like, what do you think, places like St. Paul proper? It's just going to open as a regular bar, but of course they're going to have craft beer on tap. Do you think that there's a right or wrong way to do that? Or I don't know how much you pay attention to
for sure,
the market of restaurants or bars, but as much as you do beer. But is there a secret? Let me just have one thing from every brewery. Let me just have an IPA from every brewery. Let me just get 3 from this brewery.
Variety is important, but I mean, it's also, you have to fit into the character of your neighborhood, right? You have to, for in the case of St. Paul proper, there's nothing in the city center that's open past midnight, or there's nowhere offering a late night pizza slice, or those kind of things. So it's kind of finding your niche within what's already established, I think. And in the case of St. Paul proper, it's being a well-loved neighborhood establishment.
Especially since they're next door to Fifth Frame. I mean, you could park in one spot and choose brewery or regular pub. Yeah. If you were running the taps at St. Paul proper, are you doing anything different than they're doing? Or you think,
I think it's about variety. I mean, the vast majority of the beer drinking public is still drinking, clear macro lager. They want their blue or their blue light, or their Mick Ultra or whatever. So you have to have something for everyone, really, and I think that's kind of important. I know they'll feature Fifth Frame beers on draft. They'll say, hey, if someone's looking for a spot, the next step where they should go with their evening, like, oh, if you're looking for like a lounge or a cocktail environment, go next door to Tapas.
Sure.
Or you can, I always say that word wrong, which is just
Tapas.
Yeah, Tapas.
Tapas. What did you say?
I don't even know what I said. It just sounded really stupid.
That's okay.
Tapas.
Tapas. Yeah, that sounds like a wrestling federation.
Yeah, there you go.
Or a strip club.
And that works too. But yeah, so
they're doing it.
Yeah,
they're doing right. Okay, we'll make sure to tell Dan to keep doing what he's doing.
I like what Dan and Trisha did with that place, and just and scrubbing it and making it a better place to hang out. So you don't have the pool table right in the middle of everything. It's in the back, so you can have some more seating space. And yeah, I think they're headed down the right path. And I mean, truthfully, Dan knows this industry better than anyone after spending how many years did he spend at Enrights? Forever.
Over 10.
Yeah, exactly. And then working at the Genesee Beer, so they both know what's up.
If somebody came to you and goes, Will, I want to open another brewery in Rochester, another microbrewery, what would you say to them instantly?
I'd say I would not do that.
No?
It's
just about tapped out?
I don't know if we're tapped out. Like, people ask if there's a beer bubble. I think that's really dumb. I don't think it's a bubble. It's kind of a plateau. But you see the breweries that are going to be surviving are the ones that are kind of becoming like the neighborhood pubs. You see the places that are, smaller, like 7-barrel systems or smaller, or even 10-barrel, and they're kind of worried about, supplying their tap room and selling as much beer out of their tap room as they can, and not worried about, competing on grocery stores for grocery store shelf space. There's breweries that, I think there's at least, as far as I know, there's at least 2 more that are under construction in the city of Rochester right now. So it's finding your, like I said, it's finding your niche. We're gonna, like one place is gonna focus on like wild ales and barrel aged beers. There's beers that take years upon years to age and mature and blend. And it's finding what works for your market. You see like Irondequoit Beer Company just opened up in the last few months in Irondequoit. It's the town of Irondequoit's first brewery, and every time I drive past there, no matter what time of day it is, that place is slammed because it's it's this 5-barrel system. It's small. They have a kitchen, so they're you can get food there, and they're worried about kind of becoming a neighborhood gathering space, and that's kind of what. That's where there's still room for beer growth. It's when you see these breweries that are, we're going to open up and we're going to try and make 15,000 barrels in a year, and our business model is we need to get to different states, or we have to get our beer down to New York City. I mean, that's where you're seeing the biggest competition is because there's just an infinite number of brands, and if someone's not familiar with the brand, why are they going to buy something from Rochester, New York, if they can buy something from whatever town they live in that might be the freshest on the shelf?
Maybe this is a stupid question, but why don't most breweries have bigger kitchens and a bigger menu selection? I mean, you see the Genesee Brew House, it's basically a full kitchen, and I get it. They have the budget, they have the resources and stuff like that, but a lot of times you go to a brewery and they offer maybe a pretzel
or they have like the food truck model, they'll have like a food truck
that'll
set up out there. I mean, honestly, I think it's a lot of these people that are opening breweries, they want to make beer. They don't want to make beer. They didn't envision getting into the restaurant business.
I just had Adam from Chicken Out Rock on, and he's the pop-up chicken guy in Rochester. And he became the pop-up chicken guy because one, I think he's the only one. Two, he's absolutely crushing it. When are we going to buy an old school bus and do the Will Cleveland Rochester Brewery tour? When are we going to do that? Because there's the first thing I think of when I go, all right, my girlfriend and I, we're going to get 6-8 couples together. Let's do something. Let's do something for the day. The first thing I pull for is doing a brewery tour. And right now we're Ubering. We're kind of picking our map ourselves and stuff like that. When are we doing it? Let's do it. Let's do the pop-up, the Will Cleveland pop-up brewery tour. We'll get Chicken Out Rock on the bus.
You go. I mean, this journalism thing's bound to fail again, right? I mean, I've already been laid off by them once, and I went back to work for them. So, who knows how much longer I have, but thankful for every single day. So, let's think about what might be next. Right?
We just got to find something that people who live in Rochester would do multiple times, and of course, a tourist attraction. It's easy, no big deal. Yeah. Probably a lot of insurance for people being on drunk on a bus.
Yeah, that's got to be expensive.
So what else do you have going on? Any kind of vacations coming up? Anything we're looking forward to? Are you looking forward to a specific release from a certain brewery?
I'm looking forward to the end of dry January. I've been like hoarding beers that I'm looking forward to drinking for the Super Bowl.
Oh okay.
Stuff like that. But I'm also looking forward to that $100 bill my wife's got.
Yeah, baby. You should use that as a coaster the whole time during the Super Bowl.
yeah, that'll score some points.
Is it $100 bill specifically, or is she going to be?
I don't know.
Is she going to be the jerk?
It'll probably be Venmo.
Get the pennies or whatever.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. No, it'll probably be Venmo actually. 100. I don't know. I feel unsafe walking around with $100 bill. Honestly.
Yeah, right. What's okay? So sometimes I'll ask people what their death row meal is. Mine personally is pork chop and baked mac and cheese.
Okay.
What's your death row beer? You can only have one.
Oh,
if you're on death row, they give you your last and this now before you have to do. I'll do this for you. To any breweries listening, this is not a bias, right? Nothing personal.
I mean, I'm a columnist. I'm allowed to have opinions.
Okay, great.
I get paid to have opinions. I'm not afraid to stand behind my opinions. There's things I like and things I don't. And
okay.
I mean, generally, if it's something I like, I just don't write about it. There's enough negativity in the rest of what I do and the rest of.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, generally.
So no news is bad news for the brewery, at least.
No, I mean, there's just plenty of stories to tell.
Okay.
I mean, there's no, it's not my place to shit on someone's dreams. I mean, it's just not what I'm.
Are there breweries out there that you don't like any of the beers from them?
There are some really bad beers in Rochester, and I've written that on the record, saying I haven't singled out the breweries just because I think people are smart enough to know what those breweries are. I think people are becoming more educated, but there's breweries that need to. I mean, when you boil it down, if your quality's not good, if you're not making good beer, I think you're not going to survive. Just with the amount of competition. I mean, that's the most important thing I think would be the quality of your beer.
Before we get to your death row beer, while you're thinking about it, I think the coolest thing that happened recently is the Other Half opening in Bloomfield.
Oh my gosh.
I heard about it opening, and it wasn't open yet. I think I just so happened to have a trip planned to New York City, so we made a trip to the Other Half in New York City. It's always packed.
Yes.
No matter what, the beer is fantastic.
They're crushing it. Great guys. They're just crushing it. Yeah.
And then they opened this kind of like a K2 a feel because of the patio and
they were just blown away. I'll just tell you the quick Other Half story. They were blown away because they did 2 mobile can releases at Tap Mallet in the South Wedge, and
great bar.
Hundreds of people were lined up on cold Saturdays in March, and you're just like, why are these people in line for hoppy beers? And you think, oh yeah, these beers are actually the best. That's why people are in line. And there's just this cult following, this massive following for the beer. So Matt and Andrew and Sam, the guys from Other Half, kind of started thinking, maybe we could make a second location work. So they were originally looking at spots within the city, but they were going to do what they were going to call a branch office, where it would basically be like a gigantic walk-in cooler, a tap room, and they weren't going to make beer there. They were still going to make all the beer down in Brooklyn,
and transport it.
And then transport it up here, and then have Rochester kind of be their regional hub. So if they want to do a mobile can release in Buffalo, or go to Syracuse or Elmira or wherever they did
not do that though, because they have a much bigger than
I got a beer with Matt, the CEO of Other Half, on a random Monday. He texted me. He's like, I want to come have a beer with him. I'm like, it's Matt from Other Half. Of course I'm going to have. Yeah. And
Miller Lite, please.
Yeah, exactly. and he was like, I'm like, so, what the hell are you doing in Rochester on a random Monday in April? And he's like, oh, we're looking to open a space here. I'm like, and my jaw dropped, and and at that point I'm like, well, have you guys looked at Nedlow? And he looks at me, he goes, what the fuck's Nedlow?
Yeah.
And I pulled up my phone, showed him the story I wrote about Nedlow, which is the former brewery there in East Bloomfield, closing. They closed October of 2017, and didn't hear from him for a few months. And he sent me a screenshot of their of the Other Half Rock Instagram page. I'm like, you guys are gonna open a roster, aren't you? And he was kind of like silence for a little bit, and then so I think I maybe sort of helped him discover the Nedlow space.
That's great. You should own that.
Yeah, and they just got the deal of the century for that place. For the amount of land and the building and
I have friends in Canandaigua. It's not a destination for them. It's down the street. It's their brewery.
Right. I mean, when people are making it a regular Saturday habit that, we're going to go to Other Half every week.
Anybody want anything? Dan from St. Paul proper just said the same thing. He said, I'm going to Other Half, or was it? Oh, somebody said it to me. He said, do you want anything? Do you want me to pick up anything? I have a friend Alex who does the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of become like a fun Saturday morning trip that I've been making way too often. A lot of my paycheck, but
you have an extra $100 soon to do it. Don't worry.
Yeah, there you go. That's probably where it's all going to go. But so it's been really cool to see. Other Half is, I think I wrote in my last beer column, or two beer columns ago, when I picked my best beers of 2019. Other Half has really kind of cemented Rochester on the national beer scene, and you see places like Mortalis and Rise and Storm and Fifth Frame that are really, of the new local spots, really starting to gain some national recognition, especially Mortalis, which is in Avon. They're absolutely crushing it right now, and they're pouring at beer festivals all across the country. I know Josh from Mortalis was just in San Diego for a coffee and beer festival. I mean, they've poured down in Maryland and Illinois and Indiana and Miami. I mean, they're barely just over a year old, and
they're claiming Rochester as home. Yeah, and so they're representing Rochester.
Yeah, so I mean, places like Other Half and Mortalis are feeding into this reputation of Rochester as this emerging beer destination, which is really cool. You see people making trips from out of this market to visit our breweries, which is really cool. And before 2019, I don't think you could really say that. Yeah.
No, the Other Half store, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. You should walk into the place like you have some kind of stake there. Be like, hey, this place looks great. Perfect location.
Yeah.
That's not your style.
No, but they're great guys, and they're thankful, and we have a good relationship, so it's all good.
It's fun to see. It's fun to see because anything successful in your city or represented, something that represents the city, it's fun. Yeah, it's fun. It's the failing stuff that sucks to think about. It's the fun stuff.
There's a lot of stuff that needs to be worked on in this community, but there's also a lot of things that are really cool that people are passionate about, and you see all this young energy, and it's fun to watch.
Are they infusing CBD with beer yet?
They're not.
They're not.
Not in New York State. Anyways.
Not in New York State, of course,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
elsewhere, or do you know of Denver,
yes,
Colorado?
Yeah, well, yes, Denver, but I think just the first ones just got launched in Chicago, I believe.
Yeah, Illinois. I learned on the CBD episode that Illinois
Yeah, I
is
was
a
reading
state.
about one of my favorite beer writers, Josh Noel, writes for the Chicago Tribune. Was writing about a brewery there called Revolution that's doing the first like legal CBD beer there. So I'm sure like Constellation and Victor, their beer business is based in Chicago, but I'm sure they've already explored like what's going to happen or how can we exploit this or grow this or yeah.
It seems like it's endless. What do you look for for advice for people who maybe are still stuck in the which is fine, stuck in the light beer and the standard more, I guess, national brand beer.
Yeah.
What's your suggestion when they go into the next place that they go into and see a list of IPAs and pale ales and pilsners?
so like the New England IPAs are a really good gateway because they're not like your traditional West Coast style hop bombs that are going to be like be big grapefruity, piney, bitter. That people first drink might be a little repulsive.
Yeah.
So there's in the last 4 or 5 years actually a little longer, there's been this move towards the style of beers that Other Half makes, with New England style IPAs that are your turbid hazy juice bombs that are have almost zero bitterness and are big on the tropical fruits. Those are always, you see a lot of people using those as a gateway, but there's also like a world of of craft lagers. You see a lot of local places who are doing a craft pilsner or dry upped pilsner or something that kind of shows like what you can do with New York State grown ingredients compared to your Budweiser or your Labatt or whatever. So those are kind of like the two best gateways. And you'll see like people who are coming from like the wine world, might like some fruited sours, or something like that kind of has like a similar like acidity or something like that might kind of serve as I didn't realize beer could taste like this. What else could I try? That type of thing.
Are you familiar with Steam Whistle up in Toronto?
Absolutely, been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you flabbergasted when you walked in and you asked for a beer list and they said we only have one beer?
Isn't that cool? That's one of the best tours I've ever done, first of all.
Oh, we didn't do the tour. I was up there. I've been there a couple times. I was just recently there for a bachelor party.
Nice.
And for people who haven't been there, I don't want to ruin it for you, but you go in. It's this fortress.
Yes.
It's this fortress
It's
of a place.
monstrous.
They have weddings there.
Yeah.
It's like as big as the New York Beer Project, let's say.
Oh, yeah.
If not bigger.
Yeah.
You walk in and it's huge. You're like, great. Oh, I can't wait to try all these beers. And they give you you ask for a beer list or you look for a chalkboard or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they go, we only have one beer.
Yeah. They
We
only
have
make one beer.
a Pilsner. And then maybe a malt Pilsner or something like
Yeah.
that they call it.
Yeah.
I want to bring that up. And have you seen or been to the Guinness?
I have not.
Dude, so I was going.
I know. I need to.
I had a trip planned to go to Maryland for a baseball trip. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man, I want to check
Yeah.
out breweries
Yeah.
while we get there.
We're
And
thinking about doing like an Orioles weekend and then like
that's what
getting
we
down
did.
there.
Yankees-Orioles weekend. And they opened the brewery like a week before we got
Oh, cool.
there. So it's another fortress. It's like a
Yeah.
castle, huge double doors.
Yeah.
It's Guinness.
It looks so freaking cool.
It was very cool. Like the rest, half of it wasn't even open yet, but
Okay.
you got to get down there as well. And
Yeah.
is there a beer right now in Rochester that people are sleeping on? The people that should be drinking more of or trying more of, or it's all just kind of when it's out there, everybody knows about it.
I mean, this is still an IPA driven market. I mean, I think the last stat I saw from the gentleman who's the economist for the Brewers Association, the trade group out in Colorado, I think he said it's 40 cents out of every dollar spent on craft beer is spent on IPA. It's some crazy number.
Wow.
Like I mean, IPAs are really driving the market. So people are familiar with who's making the best IPAs in Rochester. There's places that I think don't get enough love, like Knucklehead in Webster makes a really good IPA, and a bunch of other beers across the gamut, and they don't get enough love. I think Iron Tug over on Westridge Road, by Greece,
There's
but,
so many,
but in the
wow.
city, I don't think they get enough love. Brindle House out in Spencerport has some of the best variety, like classic German styles, malty stuff. But like I said, your hazy juice bombs, some weirder stuff, some weirder sours. I think they're out in Spencerport, and they do a really nice job.
We're hitting those on the first Will Cleveland beer tour.
All right, cool.
We're gonna hit those first.
All right, cool.
You think you're a death row beer yet?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably go with something simple like the freshest Jenny Light you could probably do.
There. Oh wow,
Like-
what a beautiful answer.
Like, I mean, honestly, like that's the beer I drink. That's the beer I drink the most of, and that's my favorite. I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit it's my favorite beer. People look at you, it's like, why would you like that shit? And I'm like, because it's local, it's fresh, and it's delicious.
Fun fact, and I don't know the science behind this, if it's on purpose or not, but I work at the Genesee Brew House. I have before. Coldest beer on the draft. For some reason, we measure the when you're a beer tender there.
That's present.
You measure the temperature of the beer every day, and it's always the coldest.
Yeah.
Always the coldest Jenny Light.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that perfect lawnmower beer, right? It's just, it goes with everything. There's nothing offensive about a Jenny Light.
No.
It's just crisp and refreshing and beautiful. And yeah, I mean, I love Jenny Light. I don't know why there's obviously a huge following for Genesee Cream and and Jenny Red Eye and those guys.
12 Horse.
I mean my wife's favorite Jenny beer is 12 Horse. She was really excited when they packaged that again for the first time in a while.
Nobody dislikes 12 Horse. It's either you like it, it's great, or people are really excited about it.
Yeah. But probably go with Jenny Light.
Fantastic answer. Well, where could people check out all your stuff and all these interesting beer columns and stuff? Argue about the Death Row beer with you.
I mean, if they want to argue, Twitter arguments are always fun. I'm on Twitter at WillCleveland13. Also on Facebook at the same name, and on Instagram at ClevelandROC. And obviously DemocratandChronicle.com is where you're going to find all my work.
Great. Well, thank you so much for spending some time.
Yeah.
Hope to have you back when we get the new studio rolling. Pleasure. And pleasure. What'd you say?
I said pleasure. I said please. I was going to say like pleasure, and then I said like please do, and it sounded like pleasure.
Yeah. You have a pleasurable time at Tapas or whatever you said.
Jesus. It's my day off, man. And I'm sober. That's the worst part. Like, there's no excuse for the fact that I can't speak English right now.
Maybe you need one or two beers to...
Yeah, I mean, I could always use one or two beers.
I got some in the fridge right there. Just make sure you walk past it. Stay strong, buddy.
Yeah, we'll get there.
All right. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Chris Konya Show, liking, sharing, and supporting. And if you're interested in advertising in this show or any of the podcasts on the network, email me at rochesterpodcastnetwork@gmail.com.